So welcome everybody. We're so excited to have Erica Kay from Macquarie Asset Management join us again today to walk through best practices for LinkedIn. Erica joined us a month or so ago, I think, to deliver some of this information. And even in the time that we spent with her last month, there have been some changes and some new features and some cool advancements that we need to know about. So I know for myself, every time I hear you speak, Erica, I learn something new. So I'm really excited for this afternoon and excited to hear what we're going to talk about. I think you're going to focus on just, building your profile on LinkedIn. If you have a profile that you've had up for a number of years that could use some refreshing, ways that we can all optimize our presence on LinkedIn. We will have time at the end for Q&A. So for folks joining us, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask questions, and we will answer those at the end of the session. And instead of doing a long introduction for Erica, I'm going to encourage you to go over to LinkedIn and visit her LinkedIn page and really see some of the tips and tricks that she's going to offer this afternoon live on her page. And I'm sure she'll do the same. So Erica, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Kirsten, and it's such a pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon, wherever you are located. I had just said to Kirsten the last time we did this presentation, there were storms coming through the East Coast. That's where I am located. I'm just outside of Center City, Philadelphia. So hopefully you'll have me for the whole time, but if you do happen to lose me, I'm going to come right back on my mobile phone during the presentation today. So as Kirsten said, my name is Erica Kay, and as a part of my role at Macquarie Asset Management, I focus on developing education programs for your financial advisors and client education programs, client enrichment things, things that you are interested in that you may lean on your advisor for. So I think one thing that I know in my personal experience, I call my advisor for everything. I call him for things I shouldn't call him for. I call him for, restaurant recommendations because I just moved to his neighborhood. I call him for our realtor was found through him. I call him for everything. So I like to make sure that advisors are prepared with content like this, and it's my pleasure to always deliver it to folks like myself who are always looking for something valuable, out of the advisor that I work with. So I hope that's what you will find out of this presentation today. I'm going to share my screen, and you're going to see a nice presentation on LinkedIn. And one thing that I want to be conscious to mention at the top of the presentation here is that everything I'm going to show you today can be done using the basic version of LinkedIn. Now, what do I mean by basic? There are several paid options that you can use with LinkedIn. You'll see Premium as an option. You'll see Job Seeker. You'll see Sales Navigator. But don't be distracted by those for right now. All of them have a purpose and could probably be 1-hour presentations in themselves. Today, we're just going to focus on what you get for your free LinkedIn account. So no cost involved in anything that we're going to see today. I'm going to start by talking about the very broad concept of networking. Now, this is something that we really haven't gotten to do a whole lot of in person over the past 18 months. We might have tried to do it over Zoom, and it's just been kind of awkward no matter what line of business you're in. Or I know that we were a new family at my daughter's school this year, and they attempted to have a parent mixer through Zoom, which was all kinds of awkward. But networking in itself can sometimes be a little awkward. Take Zoom out of it. It can be a little intimidating. So I want to talk specifically today about the importance of social media in the networking process in today's environment. I'm going to cover, as Kirsten mentioned, how to create an optimized LinkedIn profile, and we'll talk about what that means, how you can leverage it in your life or in your business, And a few other tips and tricks and really key differences between LinkedIn and some other social media channels that are important for you to know. Social media has changed the concept of networking. It's really about building relationships with your trusted contacts. It helps you exchange knowledge, ideas, opportunities, and it provides you that broad network of professionals. And when I say professionals, that's really the key word that I want you to remember when you think about LinkedIn. Professional networking is now more than just attending conferences and events. It's about meaningfully engaging and interacting with your contacts via social channels all the time, not just when you're in front of them. And I think that has never been more important than over the past 18 months, as I mentioned. Social media shouldn't be about selling. Today, I'm not here to give 101 on how to become an influencer. Today, it's really about building relationships. So why LinkedIn? Why this particular social channel? So here are just a few of the benefits of using LinkedIn. It's a virtual network of contacts, and think of it more as a virtual Rolodex, not so much a virtual college yearbook. You can select interest-based groups. Again, similar to some other social media channels, but think about, maybe the American Bar Association or the American Dental Association or the Northeast region of real estate experts. Think about those types of groups. It allows you to build, again, here's that word, professional presence. And it can help you follow industry news and trends relevant to your profession. So that is all a very obvious tee up for LinkedIn as the professionals social network. LinkedIn is for professionals who want to connect for the purpose of prospecting new clients, networking with former colleagues, potentially getting a new job, looking for a new opportunity, or staying current within their professional network. There are well over 675 million LinkedIn users. So we tend to update this presentation once a year. We could update this quarterly. The LinkedIn numbers are growing. In the United States, it is just the one of the biggest professional social networks, and it is globally. I'm looking at the statistics here, and I have 766 million globally. And the stat that I just read you actually was the US number. That's how frequently we update this presentation, folks. 41% of millionaires use LinkedIn, which I always think is interesting. I don't know that they became millionaires because they were using LinkedIn, but it's certainly something to keep in the back of your mind. And when you're thinking about the demographic of folks on LinkedIn, especially if you're a business owner, 44% of LinkedIn users are earning a good living, $75,000 a year. That's certainly a solid professional salary. So when you think about the folks that are here, it's working professionals, it's independent contractors, it's folks who are retired, it's people who are still actively engaged in their professional lives, or maybe just entering their professional lives. And I would argue that's what's probably dragging down the average earnings of the average LinkedIn user, is that it is a particularly powerful tool for those just starting in their career. In addition to being the professional social network, there are over 30 million companies on LinkedIn and 20 million active job listings on LinkedIn. So again, this is a great place to not only connect with your network, but to connect with organizations that you're a part of. companies that you've worked for, companies that you aspire to work for, companies that you emulate or are really a consumer of their products, and you're always looking at what they're doing next. And as I mentioned earlier too, it is a place for you to find open jobs. If that is the point that you're at in your career, there's no better place to start than with LinkedIn. So how does LinkedIn work? We're going to go through a few different aspects of how it works, but a key aspect is your network. So before we talk about how to build your profile, we're going to do a little bit of research on really why it's important for you to have a profile and how you can make that profile work for you, and that is all about your network. On LinkedIn, there are 4 degrees of separation. We like to joke Kevin Bacon and his 6 degrees were wrong. Think about LinkedIn when you're connecting as yourself, then a direct connection of yours. Then they define a 3rd degree connection as a connection of your connection. And then a 4th degree would be a connection of one of your connections. Are you confused? No, it's much easier when you think about this in real life scenarios. So, I'll give you an example. I'm connected to my dad on LinkedIn. He is connected to a colleague of his from his most recent job. That colleague is connected to his daughter, who works at a different organization. But through that chain of LinkedIn, I was actually able to see that a friend of mine, her father worked with my father. And I found this out through LinkedIn. I would have never known that our dads knew each other unless we had connected on LinkedIn. So there's a really good example of that. She and I clearly were not connected beforehand. But I think when you put a person to the name, the whole business of connecting makes it sound a little bit easier. But when you're thinking about connecting, certainly the example I gave, that's a friend. That's somebody I would want to connect with. You want to think about connecting those who are not only your friends or your direct business contacts or your neighbors. You want to think about connecting with folks who may be able to connect you further beyond your network, beyond your immediate circle of influence. They may be able to benefit you personally or your business. You can never have too many 1st degree connections, but make sure that they are people you value, that you trust, that you feel like you might be able to share something with them or gain something from their network. So now we've talked about kind of the why of social media networking, the why LinkedIn is really the place for professional social networking, that it's a popular place. This is where professionals are. This is highly utilized, and the importance of building your network out on social media. We're going to now talk about optimizing your profile. What are the things that you need to know to build out your profile, and why this is important for you to do? So there's a trend that you're going to hear me talk about it as we go through this profile page. And it shouldn't surprise any of you that it's all about Google, right? Isn't it all about Google or Amazon anymore? Google is really the crux of a lot of things on LinkedIn. And why is that? Well, because LinkedIn is highly searchable. So you're going to hear me talk about searchable and keywords and all of these things that make you think about what you might plug into your Google browser search. So keep that in the back of your mind as we start this. So when you create a LinkedIn profile, you want it to be as complete as possible. You want to be able to give the most about yourself that you can give on this page. One of the reasons to do that is because all of it is searchable. And I don't mean that in a scary way, I mean that in a good way. If you own a business, you want people to be able to find you. If you're looking for a job, you want people to be able to find you and read relevant information about you. So this search is a good thing. LinkedIn gives you a grade on the completeness of your profile. And that's what you see here. If you are an all-star, that means that you have a completely filled out profile. If you can complete all of the fields opened in your profile, the more keywords and information are in the profile and the more searches you will come up in. So if your goal is to connect with more people and to be found and to have that visibility on LinkedIn, it benefits you to fill out your profile. You can also view the profile strength meter. So you see it on this slide here under All-Star. This is under your profile window in LinkedIn. And this is the point in the presentation. I know Kirsten already mentioned it. If you have another window on your computer or tablet or whatever you're viewing the presentation on today, I suggest pulling up LinkedIn, because we're gonna get really tactical into LinkedIn right now. I always have it up on my phone here so that I can reference the most recent view of things. But you want to be able to see your profile information. When you scroll down on your profile page, you see something called your dashboard, which you can see here. It gives you some cool information about people who viewed your profile recently. So, you know, when this screenshot was taken, you know, we had 28 viewers of the profile, 82 views on things that we may have posted, and how many search appearances that you've appeared in. Your dashboard in your LinkedIn profile becomes like your little report card on how you're doing. And LinkedIn, they're experts on this. They know what's going to help your profile be found. They know what's going to help your content be seen if you end up posting and sharing articles of interest. And it gives you this insight into how many people are looking at your profile, how many people are reading your posts, and you know how many people might be searching for you. So it's a very cool tool to have as a part of your profile. The benefit, again, of aiming to be that all-star is if you're looking to be found, the more you have in your profile, the better. What I think is one of the most important parts of LinkedIn is that what you'll see on the next slide here, and this is an older picture that I had in my LinkedIn profile back when my hair was a couple inches shorter, is your profile picture. Now, why is this important? Putting a face to a name. It's like one of the most basic things that we think about when we meet people. And that's what you're doing on LinkedIn by choosing to put a professional photo of yourself versus the non-gendered icon that they give you when you create your in that profile creator mode. Choosing a professional photo is really important. According to LinkedIn, profiles with a photo get 21 more times the views than profiles without. It's a marker of consistency as well. So for example, if you own a business and you have a website, people will know that they found your profile if they see your picture on the website and then they find you on LinkedIn. It will help them distinguish between folks that might have the same or similar name to you. If you don't have a photo, it can also send a negative message. It might tell me if I'm, looking for a CPA in my area. If my CPA doesn't have a LinkedIn profile picture, well, maybe that CPA doesn't know how to use the most accurate, tax planning software that I feel like my CPA should use to help me navigate tax season a whole lot easier. So it gives you kind of a negative connotation that you might not know how to use LinkedIn, or that it might be a spoof or fake account. So again, putting that professional profile picture there is fantastic. The other thing that I'll say here too is professional photos. Now, We all love seeing that beautiful picture that you took when you were on vacation in 2019 in the Bahamas. I can see it now. It was a beautiful sunset over the ocean. That's fantastic for Instagram. Or, maybe that photo that you took at a family reunion where you're surrounded by all 20 of your grandkids. Again, I know that that is a key part of who you are, but maybe it's more appropriate for Facebook. Think about this, think about having the photo that you want to represent your professional presence. Now, if you are the owner of a early childhood education center, a photo with you and 20 of your grandkids may be the perfect professional photo for you. So just think about that in terms of appropriateness when you are going to make that photo decision. One thing that I often suggest too, excuse me, and especially if you do own a business, or if you happen to work in high school or college education, is to have an event centered around taking professional photos. So, I mean, if you're helping people move to the next level of their career, so again, that's why I mentioned high school or potentially college education, offer students the opportunity to have a professional headshot taken. That would be a fantastic and fun event for you to coordinate. And it would help people get a leg up on the competition, as they start to think about what's their professional career going to look like. The next part of your profile is, where your eye goes, is your headline. So when I first created a LinkedIn profile years ago, I was basically told that, oh, LinkedIn is just like your resume. And there was even a function on LinkedIn that would allow you to upload your resume, and it would just import all of the relevant detail from it, using, crazy technology at the time. And I'd have to go in and correct typos, but basically it spit out a history of my experience. And what LinkedIn really has become is much more personal than just an on-paper resume, much more interactive than just an on-paper, resume. So you want to use your profile to draw people in. And one of the ways that I know I do that is with my headline. So as I mentioned in my role, I primarily work to deliver advisor and client-friendly education programs. So as you'll see, my headline here, it doesn't give you my title because, marketing manager at Macquarie Asset Management doesn't really tell you too much about what I actually do. But this one sentence, this tells everybody what I do every day. It has some keywords in there that are descriptive, that tells you who do I work with and what types of things do I do in that context. You can even be more specific. So I've seen professionals, think of, I'll use medical professionals as an example. Instead of just saying doctor, well, I'm sure you can guess where I'm going with this. How about, nephrology specialist with years of experience, particularly in the pediatric realm. Okay, well, if my child has a kidney problem, that's who I'm going to. It just helps you get one more layer of specificity. Oh, I can't say that word today. One more way to be more specific with your audience that, again, helps you more easily be found. So when you're thinking about building that profile, you want to be specific. You want to tell people what it is you do, and then they'll get to read on further in the profile about what that one phrase actually means. A new component of LinkedIn, which we actually don't have a slide on yet, but when I say eye-catching, it makes me think of it. There is a feature in LinkedIn at this point that works very similarly to how Facebook or Instagram stories work. So if you're familiar with this functionality, often next to your main profile photo, there's a plus sign. And that's exactly how it appears on LinkedIn, particularly in the mobile version. When you click on that plus sign, you are able to upload a profile picture from there. You're also able to add a frame to your profile photo. So just around the arc of the circle, you can add a "I'm hiring" frame. You can add a "open to opportunity" frame. I think during June, you could add a pride frame. So when you think about those frames, that's one more opportunity that LinkedIn is giving you for somebody who's searching for you to, at a glance, see what your priority might be. Are you hiring at your business? Do you have job opportunities? Pop it there. Are you open to opportunities? Are you somebody seeking out a job? Pop it there. And the newest feature that they've also added to your profile photo is the ability to record a 5 minute, that would be forever. They give you an option to record a 30-second video of yourself. And what you can do is take that professional photo one step further, take that headline one step further, and basically give your elevator pitch. So people can see you, they can hear you, and they can know what they're about to read once they go down a profile. You know, we do just often live in this quick hit culture of, you know, Instagram, just give me the photo, Twitter, just give me the news in 70 characters or less. This is LinkedIn's answer to that. So it's a great way for you to take advantage of something that you might see on other social media platforms and have it woven into your professional social networking experience. As you head down your LinkedIn profile, you will see the LinkedIn summary. And I think I addressed the common misconception about LinkedIn is that it's just your digital resume, and it isn't. And your summary is a place for you really to expand on that. It's a place for you to write a more detailed description of who you are as a professional, what your priorities are at this point in your career, what your goals are, what new opportunities you may be open to if that's the job, if you're a job seeker right now, and you have a lot of room to do it. So you have 2,000 characters to use in this summary. You are encouraged to use the first person. Why? It's another way to make a personal connection. I know, I think at the top of my resume, I have like an objective section, and it sounds very corporate. It sounds very, very professional in you know, that I am an engaged leader and I manage a cross-functional organization, and it doesn't say I. It just is these strong action-oriented verbs that really speak to what I do. And the whole reason I think resumes are built that way is because when you submit them online or you're sending them in, you want certain keywords to flag for that HR recruiter. Well, the same thing with LinkedIn. You want to use those keywords, but you've got the benefit of speaking from a personal profile page that's interactive. So use the first person. Say I. Say this is who I am. I'm here to help you. Don't be afraid to speak directly to your audience. If there's a particular business line that you're in, speak to those clients, address them. You know, it really is a place for you to verbalize maybe what you said in that 30-second elevator pitch video. At the end of your summary, you know, you can always think about making sure that you've got those words and those phrases that describe your capabilities. You know, so you want to make sure that you have that in there. If you're an attorney and you specialize in estate planning, this is really where you want to put it. So again, getting this profile chock full of information, using it to really explain yourself and to build a personal connection with that professional profile, and getting those keywords in so that you are your profile is optimized for searched. That's what it really means to optimize your whole profile. As you go further down the profile, you're going to have other sections, and these are going to be a little more straightforward to fill out. But the next section that you'll see is your experience and your education. So I like to leave this really old screenshot in here, just to show you all how long I've been presenting on LinkedIn. So you can see that the screenshot, was taken back in 2018, and this was probably the first time that we included the new experience section in here as we had. So this is just my moment to feel like I've been talking about LinkedIn for a while, but that just should tell you this tool isn't going anywhere. So it's worth the time. It's worth the time to invest in working on your profile, and your experience section of your profile is that more resume-like area. But the coolest part of LinkedIn, I think, is that you see how next to them where it says that I work, you've got that Macquarie logo on there. LinkedIn has a way of connecting your profile with companies. So if somebody sees, that you've worked at Macquarie, that's an indicator there that you or I are going to show up in a search for that company. So the fact that it can take your profile and aggregate all of your experience in with all of the other folks who have the same or similar experience, it's a way that LinkedIn automatically connects you to current, past, and potentially future coworkers. It is just very cool how they've integrated a corporate presence into your personal profile in such a way that, there's almost no debate. There could be, 100, John and Jill Smith financial advisories, but it'll know which logo is the one that you worked at or the one you're looking for. So I just maybe nerd out over that, but I think it's a really cool way to bring some color, some life, and some interactivity to the experience section in your profile. You're going to see it again. The slide says it. Adding experience to your profile gives you more opportunities to be found from search. And if you have more of the companies that you work for or things that you've done, it's going to just beef up your profile. Another thing that's important to add in the experience section too, you can also add it to your summary, is any professional certifications or designations that you have. There's a couple places in your profile to add college degrees, high school degrees, actually even elementary schools, all sorts of professional education. But if you hold a certification, like I had mentioned earlier, a CPA, that's a great place to put it. If you have any other special training that you received either from a job or in support of your job or just in support of a personal interest of yours too, please include that here. I think there's more on my LinkedIn profile than there actually is on my resume. So just feel more comfortable adding some of that more fun stuff. When you're trying to keep it brief on a resume, I feel like I can be who I am a little bit more on LinkedIn. And while I'm talking about that, this is more resume-like. I would highly encourage you all, whether you're actively looking for a job or you're working with a son, daughter, niece, or nephew who's going to get ready to look for a job, right up at the top of your resume where you list your name and your phone number and your email address, put your LinkedIn profile URL up there. Because if there's something that you can't get into on your resume because you're nervous it's getting too long, or something that you wouldn't typically include, like endorsements or recommendations, which you'll see later in your profile, you might want a hiring manager to see those things. So it's very important to make sure that anyone looking at your traditional resume does have a link to your professional profile on LinkedIn. So quick tip right there. Before we move on to the next section, which is interests. So I mentioned fun things. I used to have a section at the bottom of my resume that kind of was, personal interests. And it's where I would say things like, I'm actually a certified fitness instructor. And I would put that on there, or I would put in, knowledge of written and spoken French and Spanish. It's the area of my husband's resume where I know he lists he was a 4-year varsity athlete at a Division I college. And, he's certainly not trying to use his athletic skills to get a job right now. But when you think about those interests, what do they tell you about the person? What do they tell you about the candidate? And I know for him, he'll never take that off of his resume because it tells any hiring manager that he knows what it's like to be a part of a team. He knows what it's like to compete at the highest level. He knows what it's like to do his job and fill a role, and that he's coachable. So, that's one line item about one extracurricular he had, but it's so incredibly important when people are trying to get a picture of the whole person. So that's where I think this area of your LinkedIn profile, you can really take advantage of it. Your followers can see the businesses, the people, the groups, and the schools that you choose to follow. And if you add them as interests, or you start to follow them, that's an option that you have on LinkedIn. In addition to connecting, you might want to follow a personality or follow a business or a university. You will be able to see their content come up in your feed when you log in to LinkedIn. But people will also be able to see on your profile that you follow these things. So, there's 2 examples here, just of Salesforce, a tool that we use at Macquarie, and I like to follow Macquarie Group proper. Our home office is in Sydney, Australia, and they're always putting out fantastic pieces of content that pull from our global offices, great in industry or industry profiles that you can follow out there. Influencers tend to be people whose names you'd recognize. So think about folks you often see giving TED Talks. So I was just talking to a colleague today about Adam Grant. I don't know if many of you have heard of him. He is a professor just down the street from me at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. He's a fantastic influencer to follow on LinkedIn. He's always putting out little nuggets of wisdom in addition to whatever his latest book topic is. But many industry renowned experts across industries are listed as influencers on LinkedIn. So, if you're interested in reading their content, that's fantastic for you personally to use LinkedIn as a source of content, but it's also great because then people can see that you're interested in it and that perhaps they have a shared interest there too. I also follow several local groups that are relevant to my profession. So one of the ones I more recently joined were Women in Asset Management. And that is a national network, and it is all about women who are in asset management. It's exactly what it is. But think about how great that is, if I'm ever looking for a new job. Maybe I go to that group and I start my networking there amongst people in my industry. Another group I'm involved in is a school actually that I follow, which is Boston College. That's where I got my undergraduate degree from. If I'm looking for an opportunity to perhaps start my own business, consulting on LinkedIn, well, maybe I might go there and post something and look at my network and say, hey, I have a skill. Anybody in, who kind of trusts me because we both went to the same school, have an opportunity for me. So multiple benefits at following groups and companies, but it's all about networking. And it's all about taking what seem like these basic skills and just like thinking about the next logical application of those to uncover the next opportunity. So I talked a lot about the profile. I hope that you've had your phone up, or you might take some time to do it later. LinkedIn really takes, 5 to 10 minutes a day to really get good at. And there's some things that you can do in 1 to 2 minutes, but if this is a skill that you want to invest in, it really is a skill. And I think just the fact that we've spent the time that we have on the profile speaks volumes. So the rest of the presentation, slides that I'm going to go over before we take some questions are going to be a little bit of recap of things that I mentioned, because it all really stems from the profile. But the next thing is LinkedIn companies. So I've talked a little bit about the importance of companies and how you can follow them and put in your profile that you're interested in them, as well as LinkedIn groups. So a lot of this has highlights of groups and interests, which I just discussed a minute or two ago. But this is really the power of LinkedIn. So when you log into LinkedIn day to day, let's say, okay, I built my profile. When you log in LinkedIn day to day, you see a news feed. It's very similar to the news feed that you have on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can see activity from your connections, as well as from the businesses and the groups that you follow. So you're gonna have news coming at you from all directions on this feed, and it's really just a fantastic way to curate the content that you're very specifically, that's relevant to you. When you're on a Facebook feed and you have your friends with every person from your neighbor to the person you went to elementary school with, you might get a whole lot of content that isn't really of personal interest to you. But on LinkedIn, you really have an opportunity to hone in on things that you're interested in. And the more that you follow a broad range of content, not just your connections, the more LinkedIn will know what type of content to serve up to you in the future, which, I got to take the creepy factor out of it and realize that it's there to help me. It's there to enrich my professional career. It's there to show me things that my connections are interested in, that I might be interested in as well. But again, groups, companies, everything that you're joining here on LinkedIn, increase your chances of being seen. They strengthen your relationships, and they can help you build your business, no matter what group you have joined or affiliations that you have, and it can only help you expand the audience that you might be trying to reach. So that's a quick hit on what groups look like. And then the last thing that I want to cover formally before we get into questions is the power of search. So I've talked a lot about search and about how you want to join groups and follow companies and optimize your profile to optimize yourself for search. And the reason for that is, as LinkedIn uses the same Boolean search technology that is used by search engines like Google, which is why I mentioned Google earlier. LinkedIn search function it allows you to be as hyper targeted as I suggested that you try to be when you're being specific in your profile. And the way that it does that is you can use the same search terms that you would use in a search engine to really get specific on your search. So for example, you can see it a little bit more clear on this page here. So the example that's given is, if I'm looking for a job that requires or has said preferred an MBA, I can use the modifier of and to help narrow my search. If I am a contractor, let's say, and I'm looking for a new subcontractor in my area, I can type in, plumbing and potentially HVAC, not Pennsylvania. Okay, so I need a recommendation, but I don't need one in my area. I need one that does work in New Jersey. It's a way to use that word not to eliminate a group of people that you might not want to come up. The last modifier that you can use is or. So let's say, think about that popular or. I'm looking for a doctor or a dentist because I need both, and Philadelphia. It's really very basic. I don't know that those were my strongest examples of the week, but hopefully you understand what I mean by being able to get very specific on your search. So that is your moment of history for the day, is that Boolean search. And if anybody asks you where that word came from, there was a man way back in the 1800s by the name of George Boole, who actually invented this. So pretty amazing to think that the basic foundation for all of our modern search today was really developed in the 1800s. I mean, just one of those blow your mind moments. But the screen should really tell you it all here. You've got a lot of options with LinkedIn search. And I think one of the best options that you can't see from this screen is not only can you search people, you can search companies, you can search jobs this way, you can search groups this way. And then if you set up a search that you want to check back regularly on, so again, if you're looking for a new job and it's very specific and you want to write, jobs and New York and financial services and VP level, because that's what you're looking for, vice president, that's a search you can save and you can check back on regularly to see if any new jobs have been added there, if that's what you're looking for. Just incredible amounts of information here. We could probably spend a whole hour just going into search. But one thing that I do want to mention kind of before we wrap and take some questions here, and I'll end on this slide, is maybe the elephant in the room. So you may be thinking, why do I need a LinkedIn profile and a website and all of these other things that may help me amplify my business or my brand? And hopefully I've given you nuggets that contribute to that why during this presentation, but it really is a way to get more personal and more specific with your audience. And I think at the end of the day, many of us are in relationship-driven business roles. If you don't have relationships, I don't know how much you can hang your hat on in life. And that's my perspective. I know that my strongest professional relationships are with people that I've connected with on more of a personal level. Now, it's not to mean that everybody is my best friend, but the people who I've invested the time in, who I've allowed to get to know me a little bit more, often end up being the people that I connect with the most. Think of LinkedIn as your professional social network that allows you to be a bit more personal. It allows you to take it with you in your pocket, and you can be connected to it, again, no matter what phase of life you're in. If you're recently retired and you still want to stay active in your profession, or if you're an up-and-comer and are looking for mentors and content to follow to prepare for interviews as you start to enter the workforce, or you prepare to transition to a new role or a new industry, it can be just such a fantastic tool. And when you compare it to a website, a website is really for information. And the best websites really do try to build in interactivity and videos and lots of things for you to do. But at the end of the day, the social networking app, this LinkedIn, is the way we network and the way we connect, just in the palm of our hands, a little bit easier, a little bit less clunky, a little bit less formal. So I think that's where the power of LinkedIn lies. And hopefully this has been an educational session for you, and you've been able to take some nuggets of information away that you can practice with your own profiles later tonight or tomorrow. So, Kirsten, are there any questions?
We have some questions here,
okay.
And this is fantastic. And as you were talking, I pulled up my own LinkedIn profile. We're doing some hiring here in team marketing, and so I was able to kind of add some little flashes of stuff to that. But I wanted to, first of all, thank you for going into such depth about the Boolean search functionality, because I think some of us, and I, sort of forget that at the end of the day, a lot of these social media channels really are giant databases. And just knowing kind of shortcuts for how to search different things, even just with a basic profile, is kind of incredible. We have, in the role that I'm in, I've seen the recruiting versions of LinkedIn and the sales versions of LinkedIn, but just basic LinkedIn features are kind of astounding when you start to think about it. And then getting back to what you were just saying about why do you need this if you have a website? I think just remembering again that all of your presence online, you can't just limit it anymore to a website. You've got to be able to sort of be searchable by prospects and clients if you're operating a business, in many different ways. And I can't remember now the data, but the amount of the conversion potential on LinkedIn is still like the #1 social media tool for business owners. So it's definitely a miss if you kind of don't have a strong presence there. I wanted to let me throw some questions at you, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Getting back to the 5-second profile video for your profile thing, do you have any tips about how to do that, or what you should focus on in 5 seconds? Does it give you a ton of time?
I was going to say it's actually 30 seconds. So
okay.
I started to almost say 5 minutes, and then I was like, oh man, I don't know where that's coming from. I certainly listen for 5 minutes.
That would be boring. I think we would turn people away at that point. But what can we say in 30 seconds that really could draw somebody in?
It's hard because it's your elevator pitch. It's your value proposition. And I know folks who struggle doing that for their businesses, let alone their personal brand.
Right.
So I would start with the basics. Think about how you present yourself on Zoom. Make sure you're well lit. Make sure that you're not the Blair Witch Project here. If just remember that.
All the angles are good.
Right. You don't want to try to make people dizzy or nauseous during this video. So think about your setup, think about your background, certainly what you're wearing. And I would start this to be as authentic as possible. I almost think about it as a voicemail, like leaving a voicemail and just saying, hi, my name is Erica Kay, and I'm really looking to teach you something new. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you're a financial advisor, I can help you in my current role. But if you have a financial advisor, or if you even have a bank account, I can probably teach you something about how to navigate the financial world that we're in just a little bit better.
Perfect. Great.
And that way, I do this all the time, so I have a little bit of practice, but it's told you a couple things about me. It told you my name. It's told you who I primarily work with, but it told you the area of expertise that I have, and that's teaching. And it tells you what I'm an expert at teaching at, and that's something having to do with financial services. So it's like a little teaser for why somebody might want to connect with you.
Awesome. Here's a quick question that just came in, and then I have a few more as well. Is it ever okay to unfriend someone that you've previously linked in with? What's the etiquette around that?
Yeah, and I can tell you that I've probably lost connections and I don't know it. So
You don't get there's not like a massive alert if somebody does that, which is nice.
Yeah, there isn't an alert if that happens. There are security settings in your profile as well that can help you set personal preferences, kind of beyond that. But I don't think that there is any harm in, I call it the unsubscribe from people or companies or group updates. I know that I'm not monitoring my connections on a daily basis. And once you get over that 500 threshold, I'm not sure why LinkedIn has chosen 500 as the threshold. It doesn't even tell most people how many connections you have. It just says 500 plus. Maybe if you unfollow the 500th and you go down to 499, somebody may notice, but I wouldn't worry about it.
I would say too, the other thing that I notice, I typically try to just accept connection requests from people that I've actually met, because otherwise it can turn into sort of a salesy relationship. But if there's somebody who's reaching out to me and it seems like it's a good reason, and I think, well, there could be some value in connecting, I may do that. If it does start to become a spammy, if it turns into a spammy type of encounter, I have no compunction about just removing that connection, because I feel like that's ridiculous.
Well, it's a fantastic point too. And just as you go through some other questions, connecting with people, it's super easy. You just press a button, connect. But the way to take it to the next level, and this is often not available from the mobile experience, so it is worth you going to a desktop or a tablet to do it. You can add a personal message in when you send that connection request to somebody. So,
right.
Hey, Kirsten, I met you at that conference in 2015, and you probably don't remember me, but I saw that you're hiring and I'm interested. And that way you've given yourself context when you're reaching out to somebody who you don't know.
Which is so important. I feel like we meet so many people, and lately we're meeting so many people virtually. So we kind of need that extra memory jogger to be able to do that. Another etiquette question: what is the right way to use LinkedIn to network? So I know, like in my case, I've had people, and I've never done this, but I've had people reach out to me to say, listen, I noticed, I was looking at your network and I noticed that so-and-so, would you mind making an intro? And I'm always happy to do that if it's somebody that I like and respect. Typically, I wouldn't be connected with somebody unless we did have that relationship. But is that okay? Is that a normal practice? Do you have any suggestions for kind of connecting with other people's networks?
And that's really the whole point of LinkedIn, is to give you a window into other people's networks that might make let's say a cold call a little warmer.
Yeah.
So versus reaching out to that person on your own, going through a connection could really help you. And I think just the way you've positioned it is the right way to do it. Even if it's somebody you haven't connected with in a while, be honest, be authentic. Don't be afraid to tell people exactly what you're looking for. The more specific you are, and the more you can help clarify for somebody that it's not going to be spam, the better that it is going to be. And I'll just put up real quickly as you're talking some quick things to remember on LinkedIn, and you'll see.
Great.
Number 2 and 3, be authentic and use common sense. That's really what it's about in person, in life, and on LinkedIn.
Another question for you, and I'm just curious to get your perspective on this, because we kind of offer this advice to some of the firms that we work with. I've seen a shift over, I would say, the last 5 years, even, from people really posting very dry, professional type posts on LinkedIn and kind of keeping their personal or more socially, colloquial type posts, to other channels. And I've seen that really shift, where now, we have, in our case, we have advisory firms sometimes, different folks that feel comfortable on the channel, starting conversations and really posting things of a more personal nature in a way to encourage a connection with their followers. Are you seeing that as well? And do you have any you sort of have to walk a line between being warm and, personable and maybe not oversharing.
Right. And the way that I see that manifest most clearly is, it's a lot of times with team building events. So I think if you own a business and your employees go and participate in maybe meal preparation for those in need, at a local soup kitchen, take
Good
pictures
point.
of that and put that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because that shows like, hey, we are a business in the community and we interact with other businesses in the community. And this was a really good way to do a team building exercise to do something for the community. So, that's certainly a little bit of.
I love that. So really think about what story are you telling and make it consistent, right?
Yes.
So even if you're sharing, if you're sharing that type of thing, it's all adding, value to your brand. It's all sort of expanding the reach of your brand. So just make it consistent with your brand. I love that idea. I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another question for you. I know when you're starting out in your career and kind of building your profile, recommendations used to be something that we talked more about. And I feel like maybe the younger you are, it's more normal to see a few of those. Is there a point where maybe it doesn't matter so much, or should you just continue to kind of keep those live and encourage folks to maybe reach out and offer a recommendation? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that there's never a harm in it unless your industry prohibits it for some reason.
Okay.
Which is what I'm more seeing. Many of the firms that I have worked with, and this is because financial services is a highly regulated industry. They prevent endorsements or recommendations, and they kind of tell you to remove that. And you're thinking like, well, I'm a business owner. Like, I want a recommendation. I want somebody to say how great I am. Or I'm open to that if it's there. So I would say, unless there are any industry sensitivities, you soliciting endorsements or recommendations, go ahead and do that. I think people are happy to do that, particularly if you're an independent contractor or freelancer, and you're trying to build your brand or showcase the other types of folks you've worked with. That is a key part of building your business right there, is that virtual word of mouth.
That's great. And one last question for you, and then I think we probably are a little bit over time, but I mean, I love talking shop about LinkedIn because I feel like we can go on and on. So for individuals and business owners, folks that are watching this, how do you stay up to date with new features and functions of LinkedIn? How are they supposed to know, when things roll out? Is there an easy way to do that, or do we just sort of wait to hear from folks like you that are kind of tracking it on a more regular basis?
Well, I think regular updates do make it a little bit easier, but as what I say with most things in life, one of the most difficult things I learned was scoring in tennis. Can anybody explain how they calculate? One of the most, I was trying to explain it to my 4.5-year-old, and I hit a point where I just said, you need to watch this. And you got to figure it out. And you, in your brain, have to process what's a point and what isn't. Because that's how I learned. I learned from watching tennis, how to score tennis. I think it's the same thing with LinkedIn. I had my profile page pulled up here, and your profile page is often where you're going to hear about the new features first. They set you up with all types of boxes and alerts here, and you're like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's this? So unless you're the type of person that's going to go out to blogs and proactively read this news, the best way to experience LinkedIn is to just dedicate some time to it. Just a couple minutes a day, start with your profile, start poking around. I mean, it's you can really go down the rabbit hole with just, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's this? What can I find if I go here? So take an interest if this is something that you really think can be powerful for your, your business and your brand. And I don't think that you'll regret it.
Awesome. Well, this was so great. Thank you again for spending time with us 2 times now. We really appreciate your insights, and we've learned a lot, and this was wonderful. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you so much for having me, and I wish you all a wonderful rest of your week and wonderful summer.
Thanks. Goodbye, everybody.